Okay, welcome back. Talking Characters, Episode 3. In the next chapter, there were about a dozen new characters introduced, but I think I'm only going to talk about three of them. The three most important characters introduced in this chapter were Tail Vixen, Marks Carrington, and to some extent, Lichi Lin. I think we're going to start with Lichi Lin. So I own a book entitled The Ultimate Spy. I got this from the St. Louis Park County Library back in like 1988. It was probably later than that, I don't know. But I've had the book for the better half of my life. This book is filled with all sorts of diagrams and pictures of this old spy gear. These things made by the USSR, the Gestapo, the CIA, cameras hidden inside of belt buckles, knives hidden inside of pin caps. There's just this weird stuff. There's all these little articles talking about the CIA's recruitment policies, how to coerce information out of people, dumbed down to a level that kids could understand because this book was probably not meant for adults. But I think it's all really cool. So with that little bit of information under my belt, there was a short period of time where I was into spy thrillers. I liked things like L Change the World, um, Burn Notice, Sherlock Holmes. Not so much James Bond. I didn't find James Bond to be quite that compelling of a spy character. He was a lot more of a kind of low-end superhero, really. He was this very Batman-like individual. Triple X was much more of a spy. So then, I end up populating my world with two separate organizations that are these kind of combination of D&D Adventurers Guild and IRL spy organizations. Both get referenced briefly in Chapter 2 of A Dawning of Power. First is the one that Lichi is from, the Watori Institute of Letters. The other being where Richard Blake is from, and Joe Dove. Actually, I'll talk about more about that in the next chapter. The Holy Order of the Von Richten Watcher Society. So, who are the Institute of Letters? This is an information network for hire. These are something similar to classical ninjas. A group that you would employ to rob someone. They're more or less adhering to their own law of ethics. They're hugely wealthy. They don't necessarily have access to all information you can want, but they have people who are capable of infiltrating these organizations and gaining things. To that end, Marks Carrington, it is implied, had contacted the Watori Institute and asked them to steal work from himself to get his research and notes away from Clockwo International, a military R&D department. When Lichi shows up, she is disguised as a researcher at Clockwo. She's this noticeably younger Korean woman who passes herself off as a member of the CDC. How does one do this? Honestly, I don't know. That's one of those things where you kind of have to leave up to the imagination of the reader to figure out. You would have to assume that this person has friends. They have an extensive network of contacts. They have some access to all sorts of other government files and agencies which would allow somebody to create a false identity. Probably people at the licensing bureaus, probably uh, doctors' offices, the Department of Vital Statistics. And then I guess you would need to have some level of acting prowess. So Lichi is a very mild-mannered individual at first. A very... what's the right way to phrase it? It's not maternal, it's, majestic? No. Majestic is way too high level for a word. But she's a very common-seeming individual. Maybe a little bit on the more intellectual end. Then halfway through the chapter, things start to get bizarre. Lichi sets up traps going off throughout the entire compound. She cuts the lights. She cuts phone lines. She just wreaks anarchy on this military base. And still in disguise of a researcher, goes to abduct Tail Vixen. Unfortunately, after that, it's a little while before we hear from Lichi again. She has a background appearance in Long Distance Runners, and she has a actually much more important role to play in Sleepless. You know what? This has already gone on for 7.5 minutes. I'm going to break this up into 2 videos. So, this one's just going to be Lichi. How do you build a spy? Do they need to fit into real life? I think they do. There needs to be a way to explain who they are in universe. But we'll talk more about that another time. Thank you very much. This has been another episode of Talking Characters.